Welcome back to my channel, guys. This is your girl Ashley Renee. I am here to talk to you about being your authentic self. This is an IGTV recording that I did last Friday, and I think it will be very beneficial and ties perfectly into this week's blog topic. So please go ahead and enjoy. I'll see you guys in the next clip. So for those who don't know, or if you're watching the IGTV, my name is Ashley. I am a blogger, an aspiring author, a coach / mentor, and by professional background, I'm a registered nurse. I feel like it is my purpose to empower women, to encourage them to live their best lives on purpose. And this came from a journey that I'll go into because it leads into my topic of being your authentic self. If you don't know, I do author a blog called Own Your Authenticity. You can go into my link in the bio, or you can visit ownyourouthenticity.com and, just feast your eyes, have fun. So when I started my blog, it came from a saying that a lot of you in here will understand where I'm coming from, of an audience of one is still an audience, and give God something to bless. Because I felt like, especially right before the pandemic, I was having moments where I just felt like I was just showing up everywhere and doing everything, and I was checking boxes off, but I didn't feel fulfilled within myself. And so a lot of the time I kind of felt like what am I doing here? Like, okay, yes, this person said, you're great and this looks fine, and yeah, keep doing this, but I didn't feel right doing it because I felt like Ashley Renee wasn't in the mix. So that bothered me. And after months of toiling, of trying to figure out what am I doing with life? Like, something don't feel right. After months of toiling and sitting on it and saying, bruh, this ain't it, something ain't right, I decided to take heed to that still small voice and say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna give God something to bless. And that was me showing up for my authentic self, because I felt like it was finally the thing I did for myself. It was a thing I did when nobody was in my ear saying, oh, you should do this, or maybe you should do that, you should think about doing something else. And was that Jasmine? So, and I think that oftentimes, and the reason why I chose this topic too, is because oftentimes we allow the they or the others to influence how we show up, how we do things for ourselves. And after a while, I just felt like I don't want to live my life like that anymore. So hey, Roberta. So I'm going to tell you, as showing up as my authentic self, I was in the bathroom, I was on a call, all right? I set my timer, I was like, all right, it's 7 o'clock, I need to hop on off of this, right? And set up to get ready for my live. Because me, I don't know about anybody else here, but before I show up, on a platform, do something for work, whatever the case may be, before I show up, the nerves start kicking in. I start to talk fast, as I'm positively sure I just did. And the pits start to sweat in other places I won't mention, just to spare y'all. And things start to happen, right? So I was like, all right, give yourself 30 minutes to, get in line, because you finna have people on here, and, you gotta come correct. So I'm like, all right. And this literally happened 10 minutes before. And so, I got the makeup all done, because I'm like, all right, I'm about to be cute for, my folks. I gotta show up for them. Girl, I went for the ring light. Well, I plugged it in and no light came on. All it did was flicker. It just kept flickering. And every single time I turned it on, it flickered. And I was just like, this is not happening. Since the week started, I said I was going to go live. I recorded a YouTube video yesterday with no issues with the setup. Everything worked. But today, 10 minutes before this happened. So I'm like, all right, cool. All right, Brody, you got it. The devil, that is, not God. And so I kept plugging it in, you know, because sometimes denial. And I'm like, all right, kept getting flickers. So I said, you know what, Ash, it's all right. Because at the end of the day, your message is what matters. And it doesn't matter what you look like. Ain't nobody come here to look at you, right? And then what started happening as I was thinking about the fact that it's the message and not, you know, somebody's outside stuck in stone. So they're revving the car engine out. And I'm just sitting here, literally, like I was sitting here for 15 minutes, just sitting here like, okay, so there's just going to be a whole bunch of sound and glitches happening right before my live today. The one time, like a month or two, that I choose to go live, this happens. But then I said, you know what, but this ties perfectly into your topic of, thank you, Amesha, of showing up as your authentic self. Because I could have easily, and my P2P sisters know, I could have easily said, oh, I'm not going to show up today. Like, you know, it's just not going to happen. It's not meant to be today. Maybe I'll show up next week. And I could have procrastinated. I could have put it off. I could have done all these things and made up all these excuses. But I said, no. I am a firm believer that for every time somebody's about to drop a bomb, drop a message, drop something that is mind shift, like it's about to change somebody's mindset, or it's about to shift somebody, it's about to release somebody, free somebody from something, that's when the devil attacks the most. And I said, you know what, Ash, it is what it is. Even if you're about to do this in darkness, you're gonna pop up and you're gonna do what you have to do. So that was, you know, like my little tidbit of giving myself a pep talk. I'm like, who cares what happens in the background? They're not here for that. So anywho, so in showing up as my authentic self, when I had started the blog, I always go back to this because I see how much I've grown in the past year alone by acknowledging and going back and saying to myself, like, hey sis, like, you're only doing this for you. It's not for anybody else. It's not for, you know, like all the other influencers out there. Like, you're not showing up to compare yourself to them. You're not showing up to be like them. You're showing up as you, for you, and for the people that you were called to serve. If I'm up here telling women like, oh yeah, you know, like you can do this and you feel empowered and encouraged, I can't then show up here and act like, oh, I'm too smart, I can't do that. No, it's not meant for me today. No, I have to defy the odds because I understand that there's somebody else out there who feels the same way I did, or, you know, like they have a whole world of things going on, the thoughts that they're battling with, the limiting beliefs that they have. And I acknowledge that if I don't show up, then maybe somebody else won't have that release that they need. And then so when I created my blog, like I have a lot of my sisters in my coaching program now will tell me like, oh my God, like you're amazing, you have this platform and you do that. And I'm like, me, child? When I started my blog in June, I want to say 23rd of 2020 at 2 o'clock in the morning, this here was not there at all. You could not have me show up on live. And so I was telling somebody earlier this week that when I had my blog and when I launched it and when, you know, like I was going through the motions and I was like, oh my God, like who's gonna listen to me? I don't, you know, like what if what I'm saying doesn't resonate with anybody? What if they judge me? A lot of people know me as, you know, my professional background. I'm a nurse, and they'll say like, oh yeah, Ashley, oh my God, you're doing so well in your career, this and that and the third thing. But what if they don't accept me as the blogger or the aspiring motivational speaker or the aspiring author? What if they don't accept me? And I had to get to a point where I was like, who cares? We spend so much time in this life worrying about who, you know, like who looks at us and who cares and who, and the scrutiny and this and that and the third thing. And I'm just like, I had to get to a point where I said, you have to stop doing that. And I was doing a branding program last year after I launched my website, and it was more so to give me the boost that I needed to put myself out there, to create a brand or to create, you know, like the visuals and everything like that of my brand to make sure that when I stepped out and when I say, oh, Ashley Renee is behind this, that I can feel proud of it and I don't have to show up and be ashamed. And so I remember distinctly my coach at the time had said towards the end of the program, we were about like maybe a week or two away from launching, a week and a half. And she challenged us and she said, I want you guys to show up on whatever platform you choose and just go live. She said, even if it's a minute, she said, I dare you to go live. And I was like, oh, hell no. I'm not, what? I'm not doing that. And I remember thinking to myself, and she said, you know, like, it's fine if you don't. She said, but I can guarantee you that it gives you the kick that you need to really stand up for yourself, to really put your brand out there. And I can tell you, for about a month and a half after creating my blog, no one knew. And when I say no one, I mean, like, you know, obviously, like, my best friend knew, like, my best girlfriends knew, my household knew. But outside of that, like, no. People can't know that I'm the voice behind this, because if they know, like, what will they say? And so, again, at one point, I got to the point where I was like, to be honest, why can't you do this thing? Why can't you pop up on live and let everybody know, you know, like, what it is that you do? And so I got, you know, the balls, and I said, all right, like, it is what it is. And I scripted it out and I went on live, I want to say for like 30 to 40 minutes. Surprised my damn self. But I acknowledged in that moment that I was showing up as my authentic self. Right? And so when I decided to do the live today, I want to say it was midweek, like Tuesday, Wednesday, when I proposed, and I was like, you know, you guys should think, do you guys think I should go live? And a couple people said yes. And I was like, all right, I think 13 people. And I was like, well, damn, like, that's a lot. If it was one or two, maybe I'd have been like, no. But I'm like, 13 whole people? Okay. And then I didn't have a topic. Sloppy progress. I was just like, you know what, Ash, just show up and just find something to talk about. And so last night, one of my sisters from my Facebook group, she said to me, she was like, all right, so what are we talking about? And I was like, to be honest, I have a lot going on here. And when I finally like said it and showed up, I was like, you know what, this is exactly what I'm gonna talk about. And when the topic started flowing and when I started writing my script out, as you can see, the iPad is here, I, you know, said, okay, who are we? How are we showing up as our authentic selves, and why do we not show up as such? A lot of people, myself included, hide from who they really are, or who they, let's not say who they are, but who they aspire to be. A lot of people, their voices have been stripped from them. Their sense of self has been shattered. And I know people from all different walks of life. I'm not gonna get emotional. And I can see how a lot of their childhood, a lot of them growing up and having to figure out how to navigate through life, a lot of how that shaped them. And so I see a lot of people who, when I sit down and talk to them, I'm like, you are so dope. Oh my God, this is great. But when it comes time to show up in the world, you know, wherever, whatever platform they have, it's a totally different person. And different just meaning like they're not as vocal, it's almost like they're shrunken. And I have a problem with that. Even for myself. Because there were times when I was going through, and even today I was writing out and I was thinking, I was like, oh my goodness, like this is really a thing that cripples people. Because, and I saw a post earlier this week, if you hear that, girl, the devil is strong. I saw a post earlier this week that said, Patrice Washington had posted it, and she said, a lot of times we allow they and other people to pin labels on us that we don't even believe, but we take it upon ourselves and we move through life like that, and we have the burden of, and sometimes it's not even negative. I think she had said she has the title pinned on her as, I want to say the strong friend, but I know that's not what it was, but basically like being that strong person. And at times you being that strong person, sometimes you don't want to be strong. Sometimes you want somebody to come in and hold you. But because you have these others and the theys that pin these labels on you, now you feel compelled to show up as that person. And that might not be you. Or it may be you in some capacity, but then it's not you 100% of the time. Right? And so I started going down the list of what other people have called me throughout the years. Again, it may not always be bad things, but things they used to describe you that you take up on yourself, right? A funny one is RBF, because legit, like, since I was a child, as weird as that sounds, people will tell me like, oh, you have a stale face, you have RBF, you this, that, and the third thing. And it got to a point where I was like, Lord, I'm just thinking. I'm literally just minding my business thinking, and here you come telling me I have RBF. Like, I thought I you know, you feel cute and somebody come and just spoils your whole mood because of that. And there's so many other things, like people will call me miserable, or they say, oh, you're so boring, oh, you're so shy, oh, you're so this. And for years I took upon myself that I was this shy, boxed in, boring person that didn't, you know. And over time I was like, I still do think I'm shy, but my closest friends will tell you otherwise. But there was a point where I literally tell people like, oh yeah, I'm really a shy person, this and that. And they're like, but no, you're not. And within like 5 minutes of having a conversation with somebody, if I say that to them, they'll tell me back like, but you're not though. Like, something that you're saying, what you think of yourself is not quite right, and it's not accurate. And so over time, I started discovering myself. In the last year alone, I'm 28. And in 2020 was when I really sat down and I had to go through, you know, like life experiences and just things that had happened. And the reason for me feeling unfulfilled, the reason for me wanting to pursue purpose, the reason for me, you know, during a pandemic, just wanting to like take the time out and just shift my mindset and just stop and introspect. Last year, for months, I was like, yo, introspection is key. And I was saying that for months because I felt it, I was living it, and it's true. We spend so much time living out the labels that other people pin on us that we don't take the time to really dive deep and dig deeper into who we are as individuals. And not only who we are, but who we want to be. And so we allow the others, as I said before, sometimes it comes from childhood. I know people who have childhood traumas where their parents told them, oh, you will never be X and such, and then you see them going through life trying to either defy the odds, or whatever they're doing is just destructive to their being. And as I was writing this out, I was like, honestly, like, I didn't expect the topic to get this deep when I first thought about it, but these are all the things that play into being our authentic selves. And so I'm at a point in life where I can sit and smile and say that this is Ashley Renee James, and if you don't like it, you could head on out, because it's not going to change. And as I said that, something else popped up that I had written down. When I had first started working as a nurse, I see the comments going, and I'm going to have to read through them when I'm done because, girl. But when I had first started out as a nurse, I remember my nurse mentor. Girl, my nursing journey when I first started out was rocky. I'm surprised that I am here where I am today, but all I can say is God. And she said to me, something had happened, and we sat down and we were debriefing. And she said to me, you know, basically asking me questions like, what had happened? What do you think you missed? Why, you know, X and such thing happened, whatever the case may be. And we were having a conversation about it. Everybody's open, and I expressed myself and how I thought. And there was something she said to me, and I said, but you know, we as Jamaican people, like, we don't X, Y, and Z. And she looked at me and she said, okay, I can understand that culturally you might look at things a certain way, or you may present a certain way because of culture. And I was basically saying to her, like, I'm not, you know, like this friendly, happy-go-lucky person, because how I grew up, Jamaican people aren't like that, and that's my truth. And me as an individual, I'm not necessarily your step into the room and have a conversation with 50 people, that's just, you know, I've never felt like I mastered that art. And so I was being honest with her when I said these things, and she said to me, she was like, okay, I understand you. And there was something I said to her, and I said, you know, like, this is me and I'm not gonna change. And she could have basically slapped me in the face, and she was like, don't ever say that again. And I was like, what do you expect from me? And I was almost getting upset because I was like, but this is me, you know, like getting defensive. And she said, don't ever say that again. She was like, I understand where you're coming from with culture, but there's always room for change. Right? And so I think that when it comes on to suppressing our true selves and operating from a place of, well, this is what they say I am, so this is what I'm gonna be, you don't have to be that, sis. Because for every time that somebody has said something negative or something that's really not me, and I took that on, I saw how I embodied it, and I silenced myself for years. Literally for years. Whereas 3 years later, now I have, you know, people who, I mentor people who will ask me like, oh, Ash, when are you going to do this thing and this thing and this thing? Because you're the perfect person for that job. People will say to me like, you know, like, you're amazing at like facilitating programs and events and putting things together. And I'm looking at them like, what? No. But I can guarantee you that your gifts and your talents will shine through at every turn in your life, whether or not you want to acknowledge them. And that's the part of being your authentic selves. That there, when you silence yourself for so long and those things start coming out and people start recognizing that, girl. And so in that, I wanted to say, personally for me, and I'm sure a lot of people have the same experience and they haven't realized it, is that when you get to a point where you've silenced yourself and you haven't acknowledged who you are authentically, and you haven't said, well, you know, you strip the traumas and the guilts and everything from the past, when you haven't stripped those things and really dug deeper into who you are, me personally, is where I see that I was on a bout of survival mode. And I don't want it to sound like, you know, like, what is she talking about? How can I say this? I felt like I was doing what everybody else wanted me to do and not what I truly wanted to do for myself. And in that is where I was like in a mode of, oh, you know, all right, like, I'll just go back to school in 2 years. I'll just do this in 2 years. I'll just do that next week. And because somebody had a plan for me that wasn't necessarily my plan for myself. So, and I say this all the time, there's nothing wrong with education. There's nothing wrong with school, because this is what got me here at this point. But I see how, as a nurse, there's always a push for higher education. And you do have to, you know, like, keep up on your bookwork because you get lost. But I see how over the years, I was planning things out based on what I thought everybody else wanted from me. And I had shared in a YouTube video like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, where my mom had said to me, she was like, oh, you know, so like, what are you gonna do next? Like, are you gonna go back to school? Oh, you know, you have to think about this now because you're young, you don't have kids yet, you're not married yet, X, Y, and Z, yada, yada, yada. And my response to her was, I don't know. And it's not to brush her off, it's just because I don't know. And a lot of times I feel like we allow other people to feed so much into us that we do things out of, I don't know if it's guilt, I don't know what it is, but we allow them to feed into us and we make decisions based on them and not ourselves. I've seen way too many people who have gone back to school, pursued higher education, don't use their degrees. There was one person I'm thinking of right now. When I asked her, I said, you have a whole NP. Why are you not why are you still at bedside? What's going on? And she was like, honestly, a semester into the program, I didn't want to do it anymore, but I just didn't want to quit. And I was like, what? You said what now? So you have a whole, okay. I was like, see there? that there is confirmation for me, because I'll tell people all the time, I don't feel led to go back to school, at least not right now and not in this capacity. And people say, oh, like, so what do you plan? I don't know. But that's me being my authentic self. I'm not going to BS you and give you some fluff answer because that's what you want to hear. No, I'm going to allow myself grace and let you head on out, because that's none of your business anyway. And so it's not to be rude, but it's just to encourage you guys that so many times we allow the things and the people and, you know, everything we see out there in the social media world to influence us and to make us feel less than, and to make us feel like we're not doing enough, or we should show up as this thing. And I'll tell you, makeup for a long time, I was like, oh, but I can't do this thing because these girls show up and they're so pretty, and that had to do with insecurities that I'd had to deal with. But that was me being my authentic self. I had to dig deeper and dig into those things and say, but why do you feel this way? And so a lot of people will act like, oh, it's nothing. But girl, it's not nothing. You need to dig deeper into those things and figure out what is going on. Why do you feel? And I will always say this. For me, purpose saved me because it took me from a journey of feeling unfulfilled and feeling like I was just going with the motions, and it slapped me into shape and said, no, baby, this is where you're supposed to be. So as much as last year, I swore, oh, I would never do video. I would never show up here. I would never do this. Now you see me and you're like, oh, Ash, but you look so this and you look beautiful. And you, thank you. And I can accept that now, because last year, out of it. And I can tell you, so before I end, because I'm going to come off, I'm going to read through the comments in a minute because I can't see nothing. Before I come off, I'll tell you guys, so I am hosting a free webinar March 7th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And once you come off, I'll make the link active, or you can go to ownyouраuthenticity.com/events and sign up. It is free. You ain't got to worry about nothing. Like, I got y'all. But even when I made the program, I, came up with the thought, everything earlier this week. And I was like, I feel led to do this, and I'm doing this. And the title is Becoming. And even though I'm here and I, titled this Being Your Authentic Selves, I titled it Becoming because I see how, even though I've done some of the work between last year and now to get to this point where I can stand here and be okay with my flaws and, everything that I said in the start of the video, I see that I am not where I want to be. And I'm becoming that woman. I'm becoming that person. I'm giving myself grace to show up as Ashley Renee James. And I'm giving myself grace to say, you know what? But we're not where we want to be yet. We're only a quarter of the way there. But guess what? In X and such time, whatever, you will become that person. And so the free webinar, it's going to be on Zoom. But I just want to dissect from start to finish. Like, who are you becoming? What does that mean for you? Why are you not that person yet? Anyway, I'm not going to give you all the deets. So even in, what am I saying? Constructing the program, the webinar, I got to a point where even today, I was like, oh my God, like, people are signing up for it. Like, what am I supposed to do? My best friend was like, chill out. Like, what is the issue? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, but will they listen? Like, all these things came rushing back, and I'm just like, what is wrong with you, psycho? Like, but I had to acknowledge that, right? Like, I'm stepping into, for me, a higher version of myself, and it comes with a lot of fears, and it comes with a lot. And I know that for a lot of people, being the truest version of themselves comes with a lot, and it's not easy work. It's not easy to step out and reclaim a whole new space and say, this is a whole new me, right? It's not easy. But as I, go on this journey, and as I step foot on this path, and I'm figuring it out, and I still have my moments when I'm that shy little girl, it will happen to you too. And I want you to give yourself grace to step out to be your most authentic self, whatever that may mean for you. It doesn't matter who is looking. It doesn't matter what people got to say about you. It doesn't matter the versions of you that people knew before, because people always, and I don't know what it is, it's insecurities really. People will always pop up and say, oh, who are you now? Like, who do you think you are? What happened to this person who used to do that when? And so what? They can talk all they want to talk, and that's okay. You drop them like fleas and you go about your business. Give yourself grace. Show up as you 100% of the time. I want to thank you guys for showing up. I am going to commit to popping up next week, and I forgot the date. So next week and the week after, on live, same time, same place. You can let me know in the comments here. You can let me know, send me a DM. If you got my number, text me and let me know what you want me to talk about. If you want to do a joint live, I am definitely open, especially my P2P sisters. And just thank you guys for showing up tonight. I thoroughly enjoyed it despite the foolishness, and I will be back next week. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.